Welcome back to the deep dive. Today is a big one. If you were with us for the last session, you know we started chipping away at something. Well, something massive. We started looking at the first 3 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, not as a religious chant that you recite to get blessings, but as a constitution.
A foundational architecture. That's the term we use.
Foundational architecture for a new world order. And it was dense.
It was a very dense session. We covered a lot of ground, and we had to redefine some very, very core terms.
We really did. We spent, an hour talking about the mechanics of this system. We talked about authority, what it means to have a book that claims to be the code of law.
Okay, Kitab, yeah.
Then we moved to conviction, how Iman isn't this idea of blind faith, it's rational certainty, it's based on evidence.
With conviction built on reason, on equal.
And then, of course, we dropped the bomb about Salah, the idea that it's not just a personal ritual prayer, but a socio-political system, an order.
The engine, essentially. That's how we framed it. It's the mechanism that actually implements the code.
Right, the engine. I like that. We built the engine, we put all the pieces together. But the question that was sort of hanging in the air, and it's the question we're answering today with verses 4 and 5 is, does this thing actually run?
Right. Does it work?
Because I can build a Ferrari in my garage, theoretically. I can have all the parts, the best manual, but until I turn the key and hear that engine roar, it's just a very expensive sculpture.
That's a perfect analogy. It's the difference between a blueprint and a building inspection. You can have the most elegant, beautiful blueprints in the world, the most perfect theoretical engine. But until you turn the key, until you see the output, until you test the foundation, it's all just theory. Today, with verses 4 and 5, we're looking at the validation. We're looking at the guarantee.
And the sources for this session, they call this the closing of the arc.
We do. It is a closed logical circuit. That's really the best way to think about these first 5 verses. It's not a random collection of nice ideas. It's a sequence.
Like a mathematical proof.
Precisely. If you stop at verse 3, you have a set of instructions, a machine you've built. But when you include verses 4 and 5, you get the guarantee. You get the connection to all of human history, and you get the promise of a specific result.
So today is all about the guarantee. And looking at the outline, we're going to be talking about, it feels like time travel, sort of. We're talking about historical continuity.
Boom, the timeline.
We're going to talk about the download versus human genius, which is a fascinating distinction. And we are going to tackle maybe the scariest concept in the whole stack, the Law of Requital.
Fita. And it's not what most people think it is.
And then finally, we redefine success, which, spoiler alert, has absolutely nothing to do with your bank account balance, at least not in the way you might think.
It's a much deeper, more organic definition.
But before we jump into the deep end, we have to do a little bit of housekeeping. It's really important that we're all standing on the same floor here. The sources for this deep dive are very specific. They are looking at the Quran through a systems analysis lens. So for you, the listener, if you maybe missed the last one or just need a quick refresher, let's do a rapid-fire recap of the settled synthesis from verses 1 through 3.
Let's do it. It's crucial because if you don't have these definitions locked down, verses 4 and 5 just won't make sense. They're built directly on that foundation.
Okay. Point 1, verses 1 and 2, the kitab, the book. What did we establish?
Epistemic authority, that's the fancy term. But basically it means the Quran establishes itself as the ultimate reference point, the final arbiter of truth.
It says la reba fi.
La reba fi. There is no doubt, no existential anxiety in it. It's not a book of poetry. It is not a collection of suggestions. It is the Constitution. It claims to be objective truth in a world of subjective guessing.
And it's a guide, but... And this is key, only for a very specific group, the mutakin. Now, traditionally people hear taqwa and they think fear of God or piety.
Right. And this was a huge shift in our last discussion. We had to move away from translating taqwa as just this trembling fear of God or being pious.
Why? What's wrong with that?
Because those are emotional states. They're subjective. The system's view defines taqwa based on its root, which means to protect. So it's active self-preservation.
The seatbelt analogy.
The seatbelt, exactly. Or putting a guardrail on a dangerous cliff. A mutaki is someone who understands that the universe runs on laws, physical laws, moral laws, social laws, and they want to protect themselves from crashing.
So they're not following the guidance because they're trying to be holy in some abstract sense?
No. They follow it because they want to survive and thrive. They are risk-averse in the most intelligent way possible. They see the warning signs and they take precautions.
Okay, that's crucial. And that leads us to point 2, Iman, verse 3.
Rational conviction. This is the other big one. In this architecture, Iman is not blind faith.
Right.
You don't just close your eyes and jump and hope for the best.
It's the opposite of that, actually.
It is. The root of the word implies security that comes from knowledge. You accept the truth because you have verified it. You've kicked the tires. You've done the math. The equation balances. It's a reasoned, secure conviction.
And point 3, this was the real bombshell, salah and infaq.
The establishment of the order. Ikamat Salah. We established that this is not just about going to a mosque and performing a ritual in isolation.
No.
We are talking about setting up a system, a government, a community, a social structure, a state that has the authority, the tamkin, to enforce the divine law.
And infaq is the other side of that coin.
It's the economic arm. It's the open economy. It's ensuring that resources, wealth, knowledge, opportunity are constantly moving and developing the potential of the entire community, not just being hoarded by a few.
So if I can just summarize this settled synthesis for everyone one last time. We have a constitution, which is the book.
Correct.
We have accepted its authority through reason, which is iman. We have built a state to enforce it, which is the system of salah.
The establishment of the system, yes.
And we are funding that system and ensuring growth through an open economy, which is infaq.
You've got the machine. The engine is built. Now, verses 4 and 5 tell us where it's going, where it came from, and what it produces.
Okay, let's dive in. Let's look at the text. Verse 4 starts with, "And who believe in what has been revealed to you, O Muhammad, and what was revealed before you?"
وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِن قَبْلِكَ.
Now, I'll be honest, the first 100 times I read this, I just thought, okay, standard checklist item. You know, Muslims believe in the Quran, and they believe in the Bible, the Torah, the Psalms. It feels like a nice little nod to interfaith relations.
A gesture of goodwill.
Exactly. But the sources are just screaming that there is something much, much bigger happening here structurally. This isn't just a friendly wave to the neighbors.
Oh, it's much bigger than a nod. It's not just politeness. This is the principle of historical continuity. It's establishing a core concept that the sources call the single Deen.
The single Deen. Okay, what does that mean?
Think about it this way. If you are claiming to bring the ultimate truth, the operating system for humanity, you basically have two choices.
Okay.
Choice A. You can say, everything that came before me was wrong. I am inventing something completely brand new. Forget the past. This is version 1.0 of the truth.
Which is what a lot of cults do, right? Ignore all of history. Just listen to me. I'm the only one with this secret knowledge.
Precisely. It isolates the movement from human history. It makes it an anomaly.
Yeah.
But the Quran takes choice B. It says, I am not new. That phrase, ma unzila min qablik, what was revealed before you, is a powerful assertion. It's saying that the system of life, the Deen, has been exactly the same since the very first human gained consciousness.
Wait, hold on. You're saying that the Islam of the Quran is mechanically identical to what Moses taught or what Jesus taught?
Yes.
Because that's a big claim. I mean, if I look at a church service and a mosque service and a synagogue service, they look pretty different on the surface.
On the surface, yes. The rituals, the cultural expressions, the languages, of course they look different. But we're not talking about the cultural wrapper. We are talking about the system, the core Deen.
Okay.
The sources are emphatic on this point. Look at the laws of the universe. Did the law of gravity change between the time of Moses and the time of Muhammad?
No, of course not.
Did the fundamental laws of biology change? Did the basic principles of how human beings form successful or unsuccessful societies change? Did the fact that usury and hoarding destroy economies change?
No, those are constants. They're like social physics.
Exactly. They are constants. So the argument is, if the hardware, that is, the human being in the universe hasn't changed, why on earth would the software, the divine guidance, or the operating manual change in its fundamental principles?
So the Deen is a constant.
It's a constant. It always advocates for the same core things. A system of justice, salah, economic equity, zakah, truth, integrity, community. The methods of application might adapt to the times. You might ride a camel in one era and drive an electric car in another, but the core principles of the divine social order are immutable.
So this is that universal current idea we've touched on before. It's actually quite comforting when you think about it.
How so?
It means we aren't part of some isolated 7th century Arabian experiment. We are, or should be, tapping into something that is, well, timeless. It's the original human project.
Timeless and universal.
Woo.
But this creates a problem. And this is where the listener needs to pay really close attention, because this is the tension point.
Okay.
If the message given to Moses and Jesus and Abraham was fundamentally the same, then why do we have Judaism, Christianity, and Islam as distinct, often competing religions? Why did we need the Quran at all if the Torah already had the code?
That's the million-dollar question. If the software was already released in previous versions, why the need for a new update?
Because of entropy. Or, as the sources call it, using the Quranic term, tarif, corruption.
Corruption.
Yes. This brings us to the dark side of human history, the problem of discontinuity. The source material explains that while the revelation itself was always perfect and pure, the preservation of that revelation by human beings was not.
So the signal was pure, but the reception got fuzzy over time.
Or the recording was tampered with. Over centuries, the code given to previous prophets got hacked.
Hacked by who? By outsiders?
No, much more insidiously. Hacked by the users, by the priests, the rabbis, the kings, the scholars.
The insiders.
The insiders. Imagine you have a national constitution that guarantees absolute equality and justice for all. But the king, or the ruling class, wants to hoard wealth and power. That constitution is in their way.
Right. It's a check on their power.
So what do? They can't just burn the book. That would have the cause a revolution. It's too blatant. Instead, they hire a scribe or a scholar to interpret it in a new way, or to add a helpful footnote, or to just subtly change a word here and there over a generation, or to elevate a collection of human sayings to the same level as the original text.
Oh, this verse doesn't really mean all people are equal. It just means all people like us are equal.
Exactly that. Or they start mixing in their own human philosophy, Greek philosophy, pagan traditions, cultural habits. Over 1,000 years, those edits, those interpolations, they stack up.
And the original signal gets lost in the noise.
It gets completely diluted. The book stops being al-Rikab, the authority, and it becomes a history book, or a philosophy book, or a book of tribal folklore. It loses its objective legislative status.
It becomes adulterate. It's like trying to run a computer program where half the lines of code were written by a master programmer, but the other half were written by random people on the internet who didn't know what they were doing.
The program is going to crash. Every time. This is where the Quran steps in. Verse 4 isn't just saying, hey, respect the old books. It's saying, believe in the original revelation that was sent to them, the pure signal. The Quran views itself as the final edition, the restored master copy.
I like that software analogy you used there. It's like the Torah was version 1.0. It was perfect for its time and place, but then it got buggy because of all these user edits and viruses. The Gospel was version 2.0, a patch meant to fix the bugs and restore the original function, but that version got corrupted and edited too.
Right.
So the Quran is the final release, version 3.0, but this time the publisher has made it read-only.
That's the absolute key. It is locked. The sources explain that the Quran came to do two things regarding the past scriptures. First, to be a Masadiq, which means confirming the truth that still remained in them.
Okay, so it affirms the parts that are still pure.
And second, to be a Muhaimin, which means a guardian and a corrector of the errors that had crept in. And because this final version is structurally protected from corruption by God himself, which is a central claim the Quran makes about itself repeatedly, there was no need for version 4.0.
The cycle of prophethood ends.
It ends because the information is finally safe. It's preserved, the download is complete, and the file is locked.
That phrase, the download, that triggers something else in our source stack. We're sort of moving into our second section here, which is about the nature of this information. Verse 4 differentiates between what was revealed, unzila, and just, smart human ideas.
Right.
And the sources spend a lot of time drawing a very sharp line in the sand between wahi, revelation, and human genius. Why is this distinction so important? I mean, Einstein was a genius, Plato was a genius, Shakespeare was a genius. Why isn't their work considered revelation?
This is maybe the most important distinction for understanding the entire system's authority. It's the difference between what the sources call inside-out knowledge and outside-in knowledge.
Okay, break that down.
Let's look at human genius first. Philosophy, poetry, art, scientific hypotheses. Where does all that come from?
It comes from the human mind. It's observation, intuition, creativity, logic.
Right. It bubbles up from within the human being. It's subjective. If I'm a philosopher living in ancient Greece, my ideas are going to be colored by my environment, by the politics of the city-state, by my social class.
By your personal biases.
By my personal biases, my trauma, my desires, my economic status. The sources even jokingly note by my digestion. The point is, my genius is limited by the vessel it's in. It's filtered through my humanity.
So even the smartest human being who ever lived still has blind spots. They're still a product of their time.
Exactly. And more importantly, human knowledge is acquired through a process of trial and error. We observe a phenomenon, we guess at an explanation, we test it, we fail, we revise our guess. It's an evolutionary bottom-up process.
Okay, so that's inside out.
That's inside out. Now, Wahi revelation is fundamentally different. The Quran insists on this word anzal, sent down. This isn't just poetic language. It's a technical term. It implies the information is entering the human system from outside the human system.
It's not bubbling up, it's being dropped in, top down.
It is a top-down injection of objective data. This is why the sources say it's the only exception to the standard human learning process. The Prophet Muhammad didn't figure out the Quran. He didn't sit in the cave of Hira and brainstorm until he had a brilliant philosophical breakthrough.
That's a critical point.
It's everything. The sources are incredibly protective of this. They argue that the Prophet's authority rests entirely and exclusively on the fact that he is a transmitter, not an author. He is a receiver, not a generator.
Because if the Quran is just Muhammad's genius...
And it's just another philosophy. It might be the greatest philosophy ever written, but it's still just a human opinion.
Right. And if it's just his opinion or his philosophy, I can debate it. I can say, well, Muhammad, that was a really good idea for 7th century Arabia, but I'm a smart guy in 2026 and I think I have a better idea. I can edit it.
You can patch it. You can improve it. But if it's Wahi, if it's the operating manual for the human machine sent by the manufacturer of the machine, then you can't edit it. You can't improve it. You can only follow it or choose to ignore it and face the consequences.
So this is why verse 4 is so critical for the entire system. It establishes the source code as being pristine, objective, and external.
It validates the source code. It tells the listener, you aren't following a man, you aren't following a culture. You are aligning yourself with an objective law of reality that was downloaded to humanity.
That really raises the stakes. It takes the personality and the cult of personality out of it and puts the entire focus on the law itself.
It has to, otherwise the system collapses back into human opinion.
But you know, there's a flip side to this unity of revelation idea. If the source is one and the system is one, then the community that follows it should be one.
Logically, yes.
But we look around at the world and we see the exact opposite. Which brings us to section 3 of our deep dive, the threat of sectarianism. And the outline uses a term here that is, well, it's pretty shocking. Structural shirk.
It is shocking.
Now, most Muslims listening know shirk as the cardinal sin of polytheism. You know, idolatry, bowing down to statues, saying there's more than one God. How do we get from the book is one to sectarianism is polytheism? That feels like a huge, huge leap.
It feels like a leap until you apply the systems logic we've been talking about. Let's think about what defines a god in a socio-political sense, not just a metaphysical one.
Okay.
A god is an authority source. A god is the one who issues the command that you ultimately obey, one whose law is final. If there is one God, there is one law, one authority.
One sovereign.
One sovereign, exactly. The moment you split the community into sects, Shia, Sunni, Salafi, Sufi, this group, that group, what have you actually done structurally?
You've created rival authorities.
You have. You have set up rival leaderships. You've created rival interpretations that are treated as binding. You've created rival identities that take precedence over the primary identity.
So the sources are arguing that when a community fragments into sects, each sect effectively takes its own leaders or its own school of thought as gods beside the law.
That is precisely the argument. They prioritize the group identity. I am a Sunni first, or I am a Shia first, over the divine truth, which is supposed to be universal for everyone. That, structurally, is shirk. It is shattering the unity of the one command into a pantheon of many commands.
That is a terrifying thought, honestly, because we live in a world that is completely defined by sects. It's the default state of religion today. What are you is the first question people ask.
I'm Sunni, I'm Shia, I'm from this school of thought.
And you're saying that from this system's perspective, that very act of labeling and division is a form of polytheism.
It's a violation of the foundational principle of Kahed, of oneness. And the sources give a very vivid, almost painful example to illustrate this point.
Let's hear it.
It contrasts the marketplace with the mosque. Picture a busy marketplace, a souk, in a major Muslim-majority city. You have people buying, selling, trading, interacting. Are they united there?
Generally, yeah. For the most part. They're all using the same currency. They follow the same traffic laws to get there. There isn't a Sunni dinar and a Shia dinar.
Right. If you go to buy bread, does the baker ask what your sect is before he sells it to you?
No, that would be absurd. He just wants your money.
Exactly. In the so-called secular aspects of life, in the economic sphere, they are united by a common system. But the moment the adhan, the call to prayer, is called, what happens to that crowd?
They split.
The crowd fractures instantly. The Shias go to this building. The Sunnis go to that building over there. The Sufis go to that particular circle. The very act that was designed to be the ultimate symbol of their unity, the Salah, has become the primary mechanism of their division.
Wow. That is a powerful and deeply uncomfortable irony. The ritual divides, but the currency unites.
The sources argue this is the ultimate proof that we are not practicing the Ikumat as-Salah of the Quran. We are practicing a hollowed-out ritualistic shell of it.
Because the real thing was supposed to forge unity.
True Salah was meant to be the daily training ground for a unified state. It's like an army. When the bugle sounds for formation, a platoon doesn't split up into soldiers from Texas and soldiers from California. They form ranks together.
And if our prayer actively divides us,
It means we have fallen into structural shirk. We have broken the principle of continuity laid out in verse 4. We've chosen our little tribes over the one Deen.
this connects all the dots back to that idea of the single Deen. If you break the chain of unity, you break the system.
Okay.
So, we've established the authority of the book, the mechanics of the state, and the continuity of history.
Right.
Now we need to talk about the guarantee, the validation. Verse 4 ends with a short but incredibly heavy phrase. And of the hereafter they are certain. وَبِالْ أَخِرَاتِ هُمْ يُقِنُونَ.
Now, I know what everyone listening is thinking. Hereafter. That means heaven and hell. It means life after death. Judgment Day.
The traditional postmortem understanding.
Right. But in this system's view, the word akida seems to carry a much heavier, more immediate, and frankly, more scientific weight.
It does. And this is another point where we have to do some careful linguistic surgery. Traditionally, we are taught this stark dualism. You have dunya, which is this world, and you have akira, which is the next world.
And they're seen as separate, almost opposed.
Often, yes. It creates this mindset of, I can fail here. I can live in poverty, corruption, and weakness in the dunya, but it's okay because I'm a good person and I pray a lot, so I'll win in the akira.
The pie-in-the-sky mentality. Suffer now, enjoy later.
Exactly. And the sources argue that this is a narcotic. It's an opiate that numbs you to the pain and responsibility of your current failure. The systems analysis completely rejects this separation.
So what is akira then in this framework? Akira comes from the root akir, which simply means last or that which comes after. In the system's view, akira represents the future result of present actions.
The future results.
Yes.
Yep.
It is the law of cause and effect, the law of requital. It's the consequences.
So akira isn't just after you die, it's after you act. It's tomorrow morning.
Yes. It includes tomorrow. It includes next year. It includes the future of your children and your civilization. And yes, logically, it extends infinitely into the life beyond death. It is the entire future. But the absolute key is the unbreakable connection. The akira is strictly and mathematically determined by what you do now in the present.
You cannot plant cactus seeds today and expect to harvest roses in the akira.
You cannot. It's a law, like gravity. And this changes the definition of certainty, too. Notice the verse says yukinun. They are certain. It doesn't just say they believe yuminun.
That's a different word.
A very different word, with a much higher standard of truth, yakin. Certainty. Conviction based on knowledge. I can believe it might rain tomorrow. That's iman. But I am certain that if I put my hand in a fire, it will burn. That is yakin.
It's knowledge of an undeniable cause and effect relationship.
That is the level of conviction the system demands for the law of requital. The mutakin, the protected ones we talked about, are those who are absolutely certain that every action produces a reaction. If I build a society based on justice, science, and the circulation of wealth, I am certain the result, the akira, will be peace and prosperity.
And the reverse is also true.
If I build a society based on tyranny, superstition, and hoarding, I am certain the result will be hell on earth, not just in the afterlife, but right here, right now.
So if a civilization is failing, if it's poor, scientifically backward, dependent on others, violent, that isn't just bad luck or a test from God.
No. In the Quranic worldview, that is their akira. That is the immediate real-time feedback of their bad decisions. You cannot claim to be good Muslims if your civilization is in the trash. The output validates the input.
Wow.
If the harvest is rotten, the farming method was wrong. Period.
That is a brutal reality check. It completely removes the excuse of, God tests those he loves being used to justify incompetence or corruption. It forces you to look at the scoreboard.
It demands total accountability. And it leads us perfectly to the final verdicts, a conclusion of this entire 5-verse arc, verse 5.
Those are upon right guidance from their Lord, and it is those who are the successful. The word here is muflihun.
على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون.
And this is our fifth section, the redefinition of success. We see the word success and our modern minds immediately think Elon Musk. We think power, money, fame.
Right. Or, on the other end, we might think of a purely spiritual success, like a monk who has renounced the world and is floating on a cloud.
But the Arabic root of mfulhun, the root FLH, is very, very earthy. It's not abstract at all.
Not in the slightest.
Right.
It's agricultural. Falah comes from the root, meaning to split or to cleave the earth with a plow. A falah in Arabic is a farmer, a plowman, a tiller of the soil.
So, strictly speaking, the Quranic definition of success is cultivation.
That is the core concept,
Well,
cultivation.
I love that. I really do. Because cultivation is hard work. It's a process. It's not finding a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow.
Exactly. Success is not a lottery win. It's
Yeah.
not a windfall. It is an organic, time-consuming process. Think about the farmer, the falah.
The
What does he do? He starts with barren land. He has to clear the rocks and weeds. He has to plow the hard earth, breaking it open. That takes effort. Then he plants the seed. He has to water it and nurture it. He has to protect it from pests. Remember taqwa, that active self-preservation, that's the fence he builds around the crop. And eventually, over time, that tiny seed, which had all this hidden potential inside it, splits open and grows into a thriving plant, a tree that bears fruit. That realization of latent potential is falah.
So if we apply this to a human being or to a whole society, success is the process of developing your latent potential to its fullest expression.
Yes, the Quranic premise is that every individual human has the seed of greatness within them. Every society has the capacity for justice, knowledge, and abundance. But it remains dormant, it remains gaib, unseen, until you apply the system, until you work the soil. The muflihun are the cultivators.
They're the ones who take the raw materials of the earth and the raw potential of the human mind, and they develop it until it flourishes for the benefit of all.
They create a garden out of a wilderness. That is success.
And this loops back perfectly to in-fact spending from our last episode. We talked about the tunnel with two openings.
Yes, the idea that wealth must flow through you, not stop at you.
You can't be a successful farmer if you hoard all your seeds in the barn.
You can't. The hoarder blocks the tunnel.
Yeah.
He thinks he is rich because he has a silo full of grain. But the fallen knows that grain sitting in a silo is dead. It's useless. Its potential is locked.
You have to lose the seed in the earth to gain the crop.
You have to invest it. You have to put it back into the system. A successful, cultivated civilization, a state of falah, is one where resources, whether that's money, knowledge, or power, are constantly circulating. That circulation is the water and nutrients that feed the soil. It allows everyone's potential to grow.
It's amazing how consistent and integrated this agricultural metaphor is throughout these first 5 verses.
It runs through everything.
Iman is knowing the science of agriculture. You're certain that seeds produce plants. Salah is the farm management system, the irrigation plan. Infaq is the actual sowing of the seeds. Taqwa is the fence protecting the crop from blight and pests. And Aqidah is the inevitable harvest.
And if you do all of that correctly, you achieve falah. You have a full granary, a thriving ecosystem.
It is a closed loop, a perfect self-validating system.
It really is.
Okay, let's pull the lens back. We've been down in the weeds, pun intended, for 2 full sessions now. Let's look at the architecture of verses 1 through 5 as a complete whole. This is our final section, the synthesis. How does this story flow from beginning to end?
It flows like a master plan. It's a blueprint for civilizational rise. Let's walk through it.
Authority.
You start by accepting the code, Al-Kitab, as objective, final, and free from error. This is your foundation.
Without that, nothing else works. Step 2, conviction.
You internalize that code through reason, through evidence. That's Iman. It's not a blind emotional commitment. It's a rational acceptance.
It's the moment the user agrees to the terms and conditions because they've read them and they make sense. Step 3, organization.
This is the big one. You build the state and the system Iqamat as-Salah to actually operationalize the code in the real world. You move from theory to practice.
You install the software on the hardware of society. Step 4, investment.
You fuel that system with resources. That's infaq. And you do it based on a rational trust in the unseen future returns. That's belief in al-Kaib.
You plant the seed, trusting the system of biology will produce a crop. Step 5, continuity.
You verify that this isn't some new, untested beta program. This is the finalized, universal version of a program that has been running since humanity began. You connect the Moanzilla min Quablic.
You confirm you're part of the main historical current. And finally, step 6, validation.
The system produces a guaranteed result. You reap the harvest, fala, via the unbreakable law of requital, akira.
The output confirms the system works.
It's an algorithm, a complete end-to-end algorithm for success.
It is. And the so what, for everyone listening, the takeaway that should really keep you up at night is that you cannot skip steps. It is an integrated all-or-nothing package deal.
You can't just pick and choose the parts you like.
You cannot have the fala, the success of verse 5, without the sala, the system of verse 3. You cannot have the sala without the infaq, the economy. And you cannot have any of it without the rational iman conviction in the authority of the book.
It's an all-or-nothing structural commitment. And, looking at the state of the world today, I think that answers a lot of questions.
It forces you to ask some hard questions.
We see a lot of people, billions of people, claiming the book from verse 1. We see a lot of ritual, which they call sala, but we don't see the fala.
Where's the result?
We don't see the cultivation, the scientific leadership, the economic dominance, the peace. In many places, we see the opposite. We see dependency. We see poverty. We see internal division.
Which leads to the one single uncomfortable conclusion from this systems analysis. If the output, the akara, is broken, then the input is wrong. We are not running the program correctly.
We might be chanting the instruction manual.
We might be kissing the manual, putting it on a high shelf.
But we are not running the operating system.
It's not installed.
And that, I think, is the provocative thought we have to leave you with today. If Sala is a system of collective unity, state power, and economic justice that prevents indecency and inequality, and we look at the current state of the world where ritual prayer exists everywhere, but inequality and division are rampant, does Sala actually exist in our world today?
Or do we just have a ghost of it? A memory of a ritual disconnected from its world-altering function?
Does the system exist today, or does the book? We've laid the foundation. The foundational architecture is now complete. But what happens when people reject this system? Or worse, what happens when they pretend to follow it, but try to trick the system from within?
That's where Surah Al-Baqarah goes next. And it gets even more interesting and even more psychologically astute from here.
Thank you for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.